There are things happening right now in the technology space that are going to drastically change the lives of every single African diaspora and every single African on the continent. The information I'm going to talk about is something that every single African needs to know about, especially if you're concerned with a better future for Africa. Now, it may not seem relevant at the beginning, but when I start talking about quantum computing, space exploration, moon mining, and we understand the dependencies of all of these things, it's all going to make a lot of sense to you, and it should be something that we're lobbying our leadership so that we can get positive outcomes for our children, our grandchildren, bringing Africa to a place of dignity, to a place of abundance that we all wish for as Africans worldwide. If you like the sound of that, stay tuned. For those of you that don't know, my name is TJ. I am Nigerian and British mixed. And on this channel, we talk about African geopolitics. The information that I have uncovered and I've done research on for this video has been highly impactful to the way I'm thinking about the future. All of our lives, particularly for us as Africans, are going to change drastically. There's two key things to pick up here. One is that these changes are going to be monumental and inevitable. So there's nothing you can do to avoid what I'm going to discuss here today. The other thing is that once we understand that, it's up to us to be in line with the best possible outcomes based off that reality. So without any further ado, let's get into the information right now. We all know that Africa's resources power the world's economies. But right now, Africa has found itself central to space exploration, mining on the moon, and the ability for China and America to build quantum computers that will control the future of human civilization in the coming decades. I cannot overstate how critical this moment is. If African leaders fail to grasp the magnitude of this position, the continent will once again be exploited while others capture the enormous value, just like during colonialism. Except this time, it will be digital colonialism. Did you know that right now, China and America are locked in the most intense technological race in human history, one that will unequivocally determine which nation emerges as the singular, undisputed superpower on Earth? They're racing to mine a rare material called helium-3 from the moon itself, a substance worth $20 million per kilogram that is absolutely critical for quantum computers. Whoever unlocks quantum computing first will unleash a limitless frontier of technological advancement beyond anything we can currently comprehend. The advantage will be so overwhelming that catching up may be virtually impossible, and Africa holds the key to determining who wins. This isn't science fiction. China has already begun lunar operations, while the United States is racing to establish its own moon mining by 2027, all to secure this precious mineral. Combined with helium-3, African materials are absolutely critical for building the quantum machines that will reshape civilization. The decisions being made in African capitals today will determine which superpower dominates the next century. How is this possible? How did Africa become the kingmaker in a race that stretches from underground mines to the surface of the moon? How do quantum computers, lunar mining, and African resources all connect to create the most important power struggle of our time? What you're about to discover will fundamentally change how you see global power forever. Here's what's really at stake. Quantum computing isn't just faster computers. These machines can solve problems in minutes that would take today's best supercomputers thousands of years. They can break any encryption system, design new materials with impossible properties, predict weather and markets with perfect accuracy. And when combined with artificial intelligence and robotics, they could automate entire industries overnight. We're talking about unleashing intelligence that will be hundreds, thousands, even millions of times more advanced than human intelligence. These quantum AI systems won't just learn from what we know. They'll discover breakthrough technologies we cannot even imagine today. Think abundant free energy that transforms every aspect of civilization. Picture the complete elimination of disease and massive extensions of human lifespan. Imagine technological leaps that make the internet and mobile revolution look primitive by comparison. Just as smartphones unlocked capabilities we never dreamed possible before they existed, quantum AI will unlock a cascade of breakthroughs that will fundamentally redefine what it means to be human. The country that controls this technology first won't just have an advantage, they'll possess godlike capabilities that reshape reality itself. But here's the twist that changes everything. Africa produces 85% of the world's manganese, essential for quantum computer components. It controls 80% of global platinum and chromium, crucial for quantum sensors. The continent supplies 47% of world cobalt, vital for quantum cooling systems, and 21% of global graphite needed for quantum computer shielding. These aren't just statistics, these materials are the foundation of quantum computers, and without them, no country can build the machines that will rule the digital age. This puts Africa in an unprecedented position of power, but only if African leaders fully understand the magnitude of what's happening. I cannot overstate how critical this moment is. If Africa's leaders fail to grasp this opportunity, the continent will once again watch others extract massive wealth from African resources while Africans remain marginalized. This time, the exploitation won't be physical colonialism, it will be digital colonialism, where African materials build the quantum systems that control global power while Africa remains locked out of the benefits. For centuries, Africa has been exploited because other powers understood the value of African resources better than Africans themselves. That cannot happen again. The quantum revolution represents the biggest opportunity in Africa's modern history to break free from extraction relationships and become a true partner in global development. African leaders must recognize that without Africa, these superpowers cannot capture the transformative value that quantum computing will bring to humanity. Every breakthrough in medicine, every solution to climate change, every advancement in space exploration, all of it depends on African materials. This isn't just leverage, it's the power to demand that Africa benefits from the very technologies its resources make possible. The race for quantum supremacy isn't some distant future scenario, it's happening right now, and Africa is the prize both superpowers are desperately fighting to secure. The winner of this competition won't just lead the next decade, they'll control the next century of human development. For decades, Africa has been the world's supplier, while other countries captured the real value from African resources. A ton of cobalt leaves the Democratic Republic of Congo for $30,000, gets processed in China, and ends up in products worth millions. Raw uranium is extracted from Niger to power European nuclear plants, while 90% of Niger's population has no electricity. This extractive relationship has kept Africa dependent while enriching everyone else. But that's changing, and it's sending shockwaves through the global power structure. The AES states, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have shown what's possible when African countries unite around their resource wealth. These nations have decided that superpowers must negotiate with them as a unified bloc, not as individual countries that can be played against each other. The impact has been immediate and powerful. Now imagine if the entire African continent adopted this approach. Picture China and America having to negotiate quantum partnerships with a unified Africa representing 1.4 billion people and controlling the majority of the world's critical minerals. The colonial borders that have kept African countries weak and divided would become irrelevant. Instead of 54 separate negotiations where superpowers can exploit divisions, there would be one continental voice demanding genuine partnership and continent-wide development. The AES example proves this isn't just a dream, it's already happening. When you control resources that others desperately need, you can demand investment in your people rather than just extraction of your wealth. The quantum revolution could be the catalyst that finally unifies Africa around its resource power, creating the leverage to break free from centuries of exploitation. But this transformation requires visionary leadership and unwavering political will from African leaders who prioritize their people's future over personal interests. The moment demands that leaders rise above historical divisions and tribal conflicts, uniting for the greater good of 1.4 billion Africans. This is Africa's quantum moment. Either leaders seize it together or they watch the continent remain divided while others control the technologies that will define the next century. China understood this message perfectly. While the West responded with sanctions and lectures about democracy, China offered genuine partnership. In March 2025, China and South Africa established the world's longest quantum communication satellite link, 12,900 kilometers of unbreakable quantum encryption connecting China directly to Africa. China also selected the Africa 2 Moon project, representing all 54 African nations, for its Chang'e 8 mission to the lunar South Pole. Think about what this means. Africa now has direct access to space exploration and lunar resource extraction as China's partner, not as a supplier for someone else's space program. The contrast in approaches couldn't be starker. America still treats Africa primarily as a source of raw materials and a recipient of aid, essentially asking African countries to remain suppliers in American-controlled value chains. China treats Africa as a technological partner in the quantum revolution. While American companies extract African minerals to build quantum computers in Silicon Valley, Chinese companies are offering to build quantum research centers in African cities and train African quantum scientists. But African nations must demand more than just better financial terms for their minerals. They must insist on genuine knowledge exchange that enables Africa to build its own sovereign technological capabilities and contribute to creating the digital future from a uniquely African perspective. This isn't just about economics. It's about preserving and advancing the rich, diverse African cultures that birthed humanity itself. These cultures still have profound contributions to make to humanity's future, but only if Africa controls its own technological destiny rather than remaining dependent on others' digital visions. This fundamental difference is reshaping global alliances in real time. This matters because quantum computing isn't just faster computers. It's a completely different way of processing information that could change everything about how power works in the world. Regular computers work with bits that are either 1 or 0. Quantum computers use quantum bits that can be both 1 and 0 at the same time, letting them solve certain problems millions of times faster than today's best supercomputers. When quantum computers are combined with artificial intelligence, they could break any password, design new medicines in hours instead of years, predict weather and markets with perfect accuracy, and give whoever controls them massive advantages in military, economic, and technological power. But quantum computers need extremely rare materials to function, and most of those materials come from Africa. They also need something even rarer, helium-3, an isotope that's incredibly scarce on Earth but relatively abundant on the Moon. A single kilogram of helium-3 costs $20 million on Earth, but there's an estimated 1 million tons of it on the lunar surface. Both China and America are racing to mine the Moon for helium-3, but even lunar mining operations require massive amounts of African rare earth elements for the equipment. This creates a fascinating dynamic. America might reach the Moon first, but China controls most of the mineral processing needed to build quantum computers. African countries control the raw materials both superpowers need. No single country can achieve quantum dominance alone. They need partnerships. African leaders understand this leverage and are using it strategically. The expansion of BRICS represents another dimension of this power play. Egypt and Ethiopia joined BRICS in 2024, with Nigeria becoming a partner country in January 2025. BRICS now represents 46% of the world's population and 41% of global GDP, and with African countries joining, it controls nearly every critical mineral needed for advanced technology. BRICS offers African countries something the West doesn't: development finance without political conditions. Want to build infrastructure? BRICS provides loans without demanding privatization. Need technology transfer? BRICS offers genuine partnerships instead of aid dependency. The bloc is also working to reduce dependence on the US dollar through alternative payment systems, potentially ending American financial dominance. The most powerful force driving this transformation is African youth. Two-thirds of Africa's population is under 25, and they never experienced colonialism directly, but they live with its consequences daily. These young Africans are connected, educated, and tired of Western narratives that portray Africa as helpless, while African resources power global technology. Social media has given them direct access to leaders who speak about African dignity and sovereignty. When Captain Traore explains why Burkina Faso expelled French forces, millions of young Africans share and celebrate. When Chinese President Xi Jinping treats African leaders as equals rather than former colonies, African youth notice the difference. The generational shift is profound. Young Africans are pushing their leaders to choose partnerships based on respect rather than historical relationships. They want African quantum computers, not just African materials in other people's quantum computers. They're demanding genuine technological partnerships, not continued extraction relationships. This youth movement is reshaping African politics in real time. Countries across the continent are reevaluating their relationships with former colonial powers and embracing new partnerships with China, Russia, and other emerging powers. The result is a complete transformation of global power dynamics. Chinese companies already control 90% of global critical mineral processing, including 80% of Congo's cobalt output. But instead of just extracting materials, China is offering to build processing facilities in Africa, transfer quantum technology, and train African scientists. The China-South Africa quantum satellite link is just the beginning of broader technological cooperation that includes Africans as developers rather than just suppliers. American policy toward Africa remains stuck in outdated approaches focused on democracy promotion and humanitarian aid, essentially asking African countries to remain suppliers in American-controlled value chains. While America talks about values, China offers value. While America provides aid, China provides partnership. But it's important that Africa still keeps a skeptical posture, be it with China, America, or whoever. The fusion of quantum computing and artificial intelligence creates possibilities that will determine global power for generations. Current AI systems learn from existing human knowledge. Quantum-enhanced AI could unlock how nature itself behaves, accessing information beyond human experience and solving problems that classical computers can't even approach. Industry experts predict that by 2030, quantum AI systems will begin delivering practical advantage over classical computers. But the real breakthrough could come even sooner. The country that achieves quantum AI supremacy first won't just gain technological advantage, they'll possess the power to reshape global economics, military capabilities, and information systems at will. This is why the current competition for African partnership is so intense and so consequential. This timeline makes Africa's current choices critically important. The partnerships African countries make today will determine their role in the quantum age. Will they remain suppliers of raw materials for other people's quantum computers, or will they become quantum powers in their own right? Current trends suggest African leaders are choosing the latter. The African Continental Free Trade Area creates a continent-wide market of 1.3 billion people. The African Space Agency, launched in 2025, coordinates continental space policy across 54 nations. Now, many people might not take an African space program seriously. With poverty, infrastructure challenges, and other pressing issues, space exploration can seem like a luxury Africa can't afford. But that thinking is exactly why Africa has remained dependent for so long. The reality is that space isn't just about exploration anymore, it's about economics and survival. When asteroid and lunar mining become the norm, which experts predict will happen within the next decade, countries without space capabilities will be left behind completely. Africa can either participate in this space economy now or watch others extract trillions in resources from space, while African nations remain suppliers of raw materials on Earth. Combined with strategic partnerships and growing technical expertise, the question isn't whether Africa can afford to invest in space, it's whether Africa can afford not to. Three scenarios could emerge from this quantum competition. First, a African Quantum Alliance, where China's lunar helium-3 access combined with African critical mineral control creates technological dominance that reverses 500 years of Western global leadership. Second, Africa as a strategic balancer, leveraging competition between superpowers to maximize African benefits while developing independent capabilities. Third, American quantum recovery through fundamental changes in approach that offer genuine partnership rather than continued extraction. The smart money is on a combination of the first two scenarios. African leaders are clearly tilting toward relationships that offer genuine development rather than continued dependency. Young African leaders like Ibrahim Traore are setting the tone for this new era. When he says, "We don't want to be rich in the subsoil and poor on the surface," he's capturing the new African mindset perfectly. The continent has fed global supply chains for centuries while remaining underdeveloped, but that era is ending. The quantum revolution offers Africa a unique opportunity to leapfrog traditional development stages entirely. Just as mobile phones allowed Africa to skip landline infrastructure, quantum computing could allow the continent to skip traditional computing infrastructure and move directly to quantum-enabled development. African countries are already planning quantum research centers, training programs for quantum scientists, and technology partnerships that include value addition rather than just raw material extraction. South Africa has quantum research programs. Nigeria, with over 220 million people and a dynamic tech sector, is positioned to become a quantum computing hub with proper investment. The transformation extends beyond technology to fundamental questions about global governance and economic power. For 500 years, Western powers have dominated through control of shipping routes, currency systems, and industrial production. The quantum AI revolution changes all these rules. Physical geography matters less when quantum communication networks provide instant, unbreakable connections anywhere on Earth. Currency dominance becomes irrelevant when quantum computers can optimize entirely new economic systems. Industrial production transforms when quantum design materials have properties impossible to achieve with classical physics. If current trends continue, we're heading toward a world where Africa is a major technological power, not just a source of raw materials, where quantum-enabled African cities compete with Silicon Valley and Shenzhen, where African quantum scientists lead breakthrough research that benefits all humanity. But this transformation also carries risks. Quantum-enhanced surveillance systems could monitor entire populations in real time. Quantum-optimized military systems could neutralize traditional defense advantages. Quantum-powered economic modeling could predict and manipulate global markets with unprecedented precision. The question isn't whether the quantum revolution will happen, it's who will control it and how it will be used. African leaders understand that their choices today will determine whether quantum technology serves African development or continues patterns of exploitation under new technological forms. The outcome depends on decisions being made right now. African leaders are choosing which partnerships to embrace. Chinese strategists are planning long-term technological cooperation. American policymakers are slowly realizing they need fundamental changes in their approach to Africa. Most importantly, young Africans are choosing to support leaders who prioritize African development over foreign approval. They're demanding genuine partnerships over aid dependency. They're insisting on African solutions to African problems and African control over African resources. These choices will determine not just who controls quantum technology, but what kind of world quantum technology creates. The age of extraction is ending. Africa is no longer content to be the world's mine while other countries get rich from African resources. For the first time since colonialism, African countries hold something more valuable than gold or oil. They hold the future itself. The quantum revolution isn't coming. It's here. I say all of this to hopefully spark leadership to look at the bigger picture, look beyond self-enrichment. Our daughters and sons should inherit a better future, an abundant future, and a quantum future. I'm sure you guys have got opinions out there about this. I would love to hear what you think. Are we leaning too much towards China? Is there another path we should look to get sovereignty in the quantum age? Maybe you have nothing to say or nothing to write in the comments. If that's the case, would it be too much for me to ask you to write the words quantum Africa in the comments section? It just lets me know that you've watched to the end, you're supporting the channel, you like what I do, and you want me to continue. Thanks so much for watching the video today, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.